G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek report time. So, before we talk about the news, I want to, because I honestly, I don't know if I'll get a chance to do a full breakdown of, all the fights that are happening this week. In terms of a breakdown for Fury versus Chisora, I'll wait and hold off on that in this video until I get these other fights out of the way. But I want to talk about the two cards that are happening over the course of this weekend. And obviously the first one, which is going to be on Friday night, which is on Channel 5. I'm really looking forward to the main event. Now, at present, there's only 4 fights announced. That's strange. I would have thought they'd have more. Now, there could be. This is on BoxRec, so there could be more that are just kind of, there you go, kind of fights that are just announced. But there's only 4 fights currently. Now, I think I speak for everyone when I say we're all really looking forward to the main event. You've Lyndon Arthur versus Joel McIntyre. McIntyre, he fought in, it's not called Prize Fighter, it's the Boxer, the Ultimate Boxer, I think it was. It was what Ben Shalom started before he went on to Sky Sport. They actually were shown on BT Sport. It's, the Boxer, the 3-minute rounds, quarterfinal, semi-final, final, stuff like that. He lost to Dex Spellman in that. And he's also took L's against guys like Liam Conway and people like that. So he's kind of always English level. He's going in there against Lyndon Arthur. So that's going to be on their co-main. But the main event is what we're all looking forward to. Troy Williamson, Josh Kelly. Excuse me. Lads, I think that's a great fight. And it's a great fight on free to air. I didn't get a chance to watch Harlem Eubank last Friday. I was actually out with my friend at the time. But apparently it done some crazy views. And, if you think of it like this, if it's a Friday night, you're not doing much. There's nothing really you want to watch on TV. Even if you're a casual, you'd be like, well, there's boxing. Channel 5, who's fighting? Well, I don't know, but we'll have a watch. It might be good. So I think the boxing on terrestrial TV is absolutely fantastic. And it's something that I wish we'd see more of. Because I think, I've said this before, boxing on terrestrial TV, the names of fighters who've done it, Eubank Sr., Nigel Benn, David Hay. I think David Hay, oh dear, was it BBC or was it ITV when he lost to Carl Thompson? I'm pretty sure that was on terrestrial TV, if memory serves me correct. I know he's fought on terrestrial. No, it might have been on BBC when he fought, can't think of the guy's name, the guy who dropped him, who was still fighting, Lalenga Mock. I think that was on BBC. So David Hayes fought on terrestrial TV, Carl Froch, James DeGale, Chris Eubank Jr. So all these names have all fought on terrestrial TV, be it BBC, Channel 5, ITV, etc. And we have a great fight, Troy Williamson versus Josh Kelly, free to air, Channel 5. I think this is a fantastic fight. I really think it's for the British super welterweight title. Now, from the outside looking in, you would say this is a real, as near as makes no difference, a 50-50 fight. Because, yes, Josh Kelly has come short when he stepped up against David Avanesian, but he has a lot of ability. He's very flashy, very athletic. When he puts it all together, that's when you get those little showreel clips that you see, like Boxing Legends TV were showing of Josh Kelly back in the day and stuff like that. Troy Williamson is more a powerhouse. He is a unit. He's looking to come in, throw hard shots, break you down, and then stop you late. He is happy to take a few to give a few. Example being the Ted Cheeseman fight, which was a fantastic fight. And Ted Cheeseman just, he didn't have enough to keep Williamson off him. And Williamson, he had the ammunition to just knock Ted Cheeseman's lights out. Now against Kelly is a mover. He's fast. Early on in the fight, he's explosive. Now, when I say he's explosive, he's not like Prince in the Scene where it's just boom, gone, over. He'll get your respect, put it like that, without having the concussive, devastating power to really, knock your lights out. But Troy Williamson ain't going to want to walk onto too many shots early on. And I think I can see a situation where we look at the bit like the Avanesian fight actually, where the first 3, maybe 4 rounds, Josh Kelly is up on the cards. But I think the pressure and strength, I mean, Josh Kelly at welterweight, he was a decent sized welterweight, but I wouldn't go as far as saying he was the biggest welterweight around. I mean, Troy Williamson, I mean, he could go up to middleweight and he would fit right in that division. You wouldn't be saying he's a bit undersized. No, you'd be saying he is a good, solid middleweight. So the fact that he's fighting at 154, he looks massive at that weight. That's going to pay dividends down the stretch, I think. But I think this is a great fight. I really, really do. I'm excited to see it. I think out of all the fights this weekend, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Is Troy Williamson, Josh Kelly. I absolutely can't wait for this fight. I'll be frank, I really, really can't wait for this fight. I think it's going to be fantastic. I really do. So definitely looking forward to that. Obviously, we have the card on, which is on Saturday in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, look, you all know my opinion on this. I'm not going to go in on it again. Do I think it's a good fight? No. Do I think it's competitive? No. Do I think it should be on pay-per-view? Again, no. But it is. We've got Tyson Fury versus Chisora. I'm trying to think here, right? You know when it's like, even in fights that you perceive as one-sided, that it's only ever going to go one way, you can still kind of see and make a small case and say, right, well, look, I think it's pretty much a mismatch. However, if we'll say this fighter does this, or maybe this happens, etc., I could see a scenario where he could get the win. I just can't do it. I can't see it in this fight. Joe Stunner has been mentioning that, you know, and obviously he was alive, he experienced, not live, but he experienced Tyson mania, Tyson losing to Douglas, and he said that this would be on par, maybe even bigger, an upset if Chisora does pull it off. And at the end of the day, you got to think of it like this, right? Mike Tyson, when he lost to Buster Douglas, he'd not beaten Buster Douglas handily twice. You know, Buster Douglas, even in his losses, like against Tony Tucker, he was ahead in that fight. He was doing well in that fight. You know, people always knew that Buster Douglas had potential, but he just never put it all together. But when he did, and you know, people were even saying that, you know, Larry Merchant even said in the pre-fight, he was saying Douglas was always seen as a fighter who, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of when it's a really big occasion, it brings out the best in him. Well, he's going to need to be at his best and then some to beat Tyson, and he was. With this, with Chisora's best was probably 20. Well, his absolute best, you would probably say, was the early 2010s. He still had a bit left between 2015 to 2018, and maybe even a bit of 2019. Whereas now it's just like, he doesn't have those legs in him. I don't think his punch resistance is the same. I don't think his output is the same. His work rate. I just cannot see or make a case for Chisora winning this fight under any circumstance. I just, unless this fight was fixed, which I'm not saying it is, I cannot see him winning this fight. My whole boxing world will just stop. The next day, the Sunday, I'd just be walking around in a daze if he pulls this fight off. This will really surprise me. I can't see it. On the undercard, we've got Daniel Dubois versus Kevin Lerena. Now, I'm actually quite interested in this fight. 6'1", the KO kid is Kevin Lerena. I think he needs to change that name because he's got 14 KOs and 28 wins. So, not exactly a direct indication that he's, you know, KOing these guys left, right, and centre. His last win was against Marius Vac. No one KOs him unless, well, he's only ever recently, he's been stopped, but normally it's from accumulation. I think Makhmadayev, he stopped him properly last time, but normally he is as tough as they come. Bogdan Dinu, everyone stops him. Sefa Safiri stopped him. Firat Arslan, wow, he fought Firat Arslan. Jesus, how old is Firat Arslan? 52? And he's still fighting. He's fighting on the 17th. Jeez, I didn't realise that. 52 and he's still going. Fair play. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but Jesus. Firat Arslan, I remember when he fought Marco Huck, the first fight. He got robbed bad in that fight. 52, that's crazy. Anyway, in terms of his resume, it's there. It's there for people to see. There's nothing to really indicate that he's a devastating puncher or anything like that. just judging by the resume. But he's coming up from cruiserweight. Daniel Dubois is not the quickest heavyweight you'd ever see. He's not got the quickest feet in the world. Very robotic in the way he goes about it. So maybe he could fiddle around with Dubois for a few rounds. I think once Dubois gets settled and really starts walking this guy down, it's going to end pretty quick. In terms of what I think Dubois' next move should be, I think I've already said this before, but if I was Frank Warren, just personally, if I was him or I was in the team, I'd be trying to reach out as best I can to Dillian Whyte and say, look, the fight fell through for whatever reason, going into November or December, that was what was talked about. Fell through for whatever reason. Let's make it now. Let's make it next year, and let's try and get it over the line. With Joshua, you'll get money. With us, we'll give you money and a crack at a world title. Even if it's a secondary world title, it's still theoretically, according to the records, world title. That's what I'd be looking to do. All right, if I was in Team Dubois, assuming he gets through this fight, I'd be looking to make the Dillian Whyte fight, because I think with that fight, it's obviously going to be probably put on pay-per-view, definitely. They're trying to build Daniel Dubois as the next big thing, as the kind of almost heir to the... Not literally, I don't think he'll do the numbers, but you know what I mean. They're trying to build him as, the next Fury for BT Sport and Frank Warren. That he's going to be the guy to kind of hold... carry Queensbury and BT Sport when Joe Joyce steps away, when Tyson Fury, retires as well. We've got Dubois because he's only about 24, 25. He's not old, A lot of heavyweights are turning over now, and you'd be saying there's plenty of time. Well, Dubois, again, he's not old. So I think they're really looking at that. So with Frank Warren, if he did put on next year, say in April, May, in the O2, Dubois versus Dillian Whyte, and you were maybe overpaying Dillian Whyte, would you take a hit in the show? I'd say you probably would. But is it one of those things where it's like, right, I will take a hit on this now, but him beating Dillian Whyte, which I think Daniel Dubois would at this stage, him beating Dillian Whyte and maybe being able to piggyback off that and get his name more out there, eventually I'll recoup that and the rest. Because you never know. I mean, like, at the minute now, Dubois is mandatory for Alexander Usyk's WBA super title. So, you never know. I mean, who might decide, what? Frank Warren could look and say, would it be worth the risk if Usyk decided, say Usyk beat Tyson Fury, if he decided to carry on, there you go. I mean, if Tyson Fury beats Usyk, and, he decides, I'll have another fight or two, well then, Frank Warren, it's a case of, why? Well, my WBO mandatory, it's my fighter. The WBA mandatory, again, my fighter. So he's in a pretty good position if you think about it like that. So I think with Daniel Dubois, if I was managing him or if I was promoting him, I'd be saying, look, let's try and get Dillian Whyte in there. Let's just do it. Let's try and get Dillian Whyte in there. In terms of some of the news as came out over the last few days, the beef with Dillian Whyte and Lionel Messi. Apparently he's apologised for that. He's apologised for the beef that he's had with Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi, because Argentina are just got a bit of football in there. Lionel Messi, I've never really rated him as a penalty taker. He just missed it. It was a great save by the Polish keeper. I was watching that before recording. But Lionel Messi has always been one I've never really rated him as a good penalty taker. Just thought I'd chuck a bit of World Cup stuff in there because I think the World Cup this year has been brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think having it mid-season is really, really... Because the players aren't... I'm not going to go on about the World Cup for long, don't worry. But the players aren't as tired as they would be towards the end of the season. When you have an end of a season tournament and you're playing a bit defensive and they're tired, they will make it... Be like Serie A, they will make it as slow paced as you can go. This season, or this year's World Cup, it's been brilliant. Anyway, football talk over for now. The Katie Taylor-Amanda Serrano rematch. Reportedly, it's looking like it's a deal going to be put in place for Croke Park next year. Brilliant. I'll definitely try and... Croke Park for me, I'd get the bus in. I wouldn't drive in because I wouldn't leave my car parked in Drumcondra. No way. But it's only about half-hour bus ride because the bus, there's a lot of stops on the way. But from Swords to Croke Park, it's like if you drove it, you drive it in about 15-20 minutes. But as I said, I wouldn't leave my car parked in Drumcondra near Croke Park. Hell no. Eddie Hearn has declared that Serrano could fight Erica Cruz first for the undisputed featherweight title in February and then rematch Taylor at lightweight. Would Katie Taylor take an interim fight in the meantime then? or would she just go straight in? I think she just wants to. I wouldn't be surprised, right, if Katie Taylor calls it a day after this fight, because I think she is getting up there in age. I think that, going into I picked Serrano to win because I thought going into that fight, she had showed signs of slowing down. And I kind of thought that in the Serrano fight, it would kind of catch up to her. It didn't. She had a rocky fifth round, but it didn't. But I definitely think that, in this rematch, I think Katie Taylor has one foot out the door. I think that a homecoming in Croke Park, that's the swan song, So we'll wait and see when that gets announced. Probably for the summer, because, probably in Ireland, during the summer, I mean, it is bright until 11 o'clock at night. So, you could do it. And if it's sunny, and it does be, we get decent enough summer. It's not never normally that bad in the summer. But in Ireland, when it gets in the summer, like June, July, it's bright till 11 o'clock at night. You don't get much darkness in the summer. It's bright till 11 o'clock at night, and then it's dark until 5 in the morning, if even. So, yeah, it's bright in Ireland during the summer. Hearn also revealed that Felix Cash versus Amo Williams is agreed in principle to take place next year. Now, that's interesting. Now, I love the fight. Great fight. Brilliant fight. Cash versus Williams. Brilliant. Felix Cash was looking to get out of the matchroom deal. It was during the summer. So obviously that's changed. I think he's on the Warrington bill. He was meant to fight in the Conor Benn, Chris Eubank card, which never happened. Obviously that was, unfortunate for the fighters who were on the undercard. I felt for them a lot. And some, like Ellie Scotty, were able to get sorted, and some, like Felix Cash, had to wait a bit. So him against Amo Williams in the new year, I like that fight. I think that is a very, very good fight. Really very good. Now, Terence Crawford has said that he is being paid $10 million by BLK Prime for David Avanesian fight on December 10th. A one-fight deal. He's already been paid half the purse. Interesting. With the second half due to be paid roughly a week before the fight. Wow. So he will have had his full purse before the fight. I don't think I've ever heard. I think most of the time it's in some cases it could be weeks, months after a fight. Some people, they are hunting down paydays for a while. Crawford could have all this paid prior to that. Apparently the pay-per-view is, I think, $39.99 in dollars. And yes, I know we complain that Fury vs Chisora is £27. Yeah, in a way, we do kind of have it easy compared to the US. That is crazy. Avanesi versus Crawford for $40. That's reaching. Eddie Hearn has declared as well on the DAZN Boxing Show that he's going to reach out to Shelley Finkel after he said Deontay Wilder wants to fight Joshua next. More willing to have that conversation. Definitely open to make that fight next or even the one after. If I was Eddie Hearn, I wouldn't make it next, right? Because I think that's a comeback fight, essentially. That's a dangerous, dangerous comeback fight. I think if I was Eddie Hearn, I'd like to get Joshua in there with someone who is it depends on kind of what is he looking to do. Is he looking definitely to go down the Dylan White road and just have that rematch? I guess maybe for confidence building, yeah, AJ could fight Dylan White. He's stylistically, he's nothing like Deontay Wilder. Dylan White, he has a right hand. He's a decent right hand, but it's not as fast, as sharp. AJ's going to be punching down at Dylan White. Have to look out for the left hook. Wilder's left hook is not really there. If I was looking at, honestly, you might even want to go and get Gerald Washington. I know he's not the puncher that Wilder is, but similar dimension, just to get Joshua in that kind of used to it for going in there with Deontay Wilder. So that's going to be interesting. AJ against Wilder now. Look, I love the fight then. I love it now. Title or no title, I think that's great. It's weird the way, the Wilder Ruiz thing is strange, because I look at that fight and I think it's a pretty straightforward fight for Deontay Wilder. The only thing I'm kind of thinking of, right, and again, this is just me thinking, just having a look at things. Maybe, I don't even want to say is it a Team Wilder don't want the fight. Maybe PBC look at that and think, do you know what? Both these guys are going to want big paydays. Big paydays. And we've had both their fights, their last two fights, Ruiz versus Ortiz and Wilder versus Helenius on pay-per-view. and they're both not doing well. So we're going to take a massive loss, because we're going to have to pay 2 big paydays. We're going to take a massive loss on this show. Do we really want to do that? If Joshua is there for Deontay Wilder, well, we're making some money. And at the end of the day, with Deontay Wilder, it's not like he's got a title. He's 37 I think he is. So do they worry if he loses? It's just a case of cashing out. You know, and that's the saying. I'd be picking Wilder to win. But you can kind of see where I'm coming from, in the sense of maybe from a business point of view, you're just thinking they're both going to want big paydays. They've both been getting used to getting big paydays. We're not going to recoup it on pay-per-view. We're probably not going to recoup it on a gate sale. What's the point in taking a massive loss, when we can actually make a profit, potentially, on a Joshua fight? You know, from a business point of view, you would kind of say, makes a lot of sense. So we'll wait and see how that goes. Now, why? Chris Eubank Jr., Liam Smith has a rematch clause in it. What is the fascination with rematch clauses? I mean, this doesn't even have a title on the line. I wonder, is there a way? I doubt it. But, like, if there's no title on the line, you know, and, you know, a sanctioned body doesn't have sway in it, could the British Boxing Board just say, look, there's no title on the line, no rematch either way? You know, because I just don't get it. I just don't get why you put the rematch clause in. In terms of the Eubank Liam Smith press conference, I think Chris Eubank Jr. is... I wish we'd had this Eubank Jr. 4 or 5 years ago, because I think he is doing brilliant. I think that the trolling, the humour, you know, before it was just Eubank would be at these and he'd just come across as arrogant. But he's doing it now in a way where it's humorous, and I think it suits him. I think he's able to do it quite well, and he's endearing himself to the public. He really is, because I think he's absolutely fantastic. You know, he said that Liam Smith, and he's already trolling. The Smith brothers, you can tell, they're already rattled. Like, Callum Smith doesn't like it. I don't think Liam Smith liked it. And I think what Eubank's doing is hilarious, I have to say. He came out with the KFC t-shirt and everything on. He added that he only needs to be 50% to beat Liam Smith. He needed to be 60% to beat Conor Benn. Again, I think that he is absolutely hilarious. I really do. In a good way. And this is like... what Eubank Jr. is really doing, he is endearing himself to the public, because before he was kind of seen as the villain. And is he trying to still be the villain? Because it's hard not to like him with the way he's been, you know, lately, and the professionalism he showed after, you know, the whole Benn debacle. You know, the guy still went and, you know, got on a scale, his own scale the next day, that a Saturday of the fight should have been on, to show that he was still able to do the weight. So Eubank really... without even fighting, his stock just rose, and the fans, the public, seemed to just kind of support him, and then they stuck around, because he's obviously, you know, he's very much a good... I think the Eubank we saw all those years, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why he was freezing in the ring, or he froze against Billy Joe in the first half, and against George Groves, because I think that he was putting an unnecessary amount of pressure on himself. And you could say, gee, he's putting pressure on himself by saying 50%. He's doing this, I think, in a jovial way. I think he's doing it in a joking way. Back then, where he would talk about Hurt and George Groves and this, and he's so superior, I think he was, maybe because his dad was there, but I think that he was putting pressure on himself, and he just doesn't, not like his dad in that regard, he doesn't thrive in that kind of environment, having pressure put on himself. And I think that was what cost him. I'm not saying he would have won the fight against George Groves if it hadn't have been for that. I'm not saying that. But I think we would have seen a better performance, and against Billy Joe Saunders. Might arguably have won the Billy Joe fight, you never know, because Saunders gassed bad down the stretch. The only thing that going into this Liam Smith fight I kind of worry about is that he's back with Roy Jones. Now, I have to say, I've always been a bit on the fence about Roy Jones and Eubank Jr. working together, and I think that, personally for me, I think that Eubank, against Liam Smith, he's going to be better off reverting to type, which is his normal short punches, up close, uppercut hooks, rather than trying to outbox Liam Smith. In my opinion, that's what I think. He was also asked on IFL TV about Conor Benn, the whole situation here. He said, even if there's not a guilty verdict, he's guilty in the eyes of the public. That stain is always on his name. Doesn't matter how much money you pay for your lawyers, your defense team, and your scientist, you got caught cheating, which is obviously in relation to the 2 failed drugs tests that Conor Benn has come back with. Now, obviously, we know the first was before this fight was even announced. It was the WBC clean boxing program. Now, legally, I don't believe they were ever obliged to inform Chris Eubank Jr. about that, because theoretically it wasn't in competition. They hadn't agreed the fight or anything like that. The fight wasn't announced. I think maybe the moral point of view, you could say you maybe should have said it to him. Look, this happened, but it's done. We passed subsequent ones, etc., and we're good to go. And obviously the second one we know about, because he didn't know about the first one until after he found out about the second one. So maybe, because I think, what was he? I think he even said if he'd known he'd failed prior, maybe that was the fear of Matchroom or Eddie Hearn, I don't know, that if he knew a WBC clean boxing program test had failed in, I think, July or August, prior to this fight being announced, that would probably kill the fight. They'd just be like, nope. Or maybe Eubank would be in a better position to negotiate and say, well, I'll take the fight, but you think I'm coming in at 157.5 or 158, whatever it was, and I'm rehydrating, I'm only allowed to rehydrate by 10 pounds. You got another thing coming. Tyson Fury has declared, and actually, by the way, I'll probably do a separate video on this whole Benn, because I want to talk about that a little bit more, so I'll do a separate video, probably upload that tonight or tomorrow. Tyson Fury has declared that if he does fight Usyk next, Undisputed won't be on the line. He's going to refuse to pay sanction fees for the IBF. Fury was stripped only about 5 days after winning it. Apologies, people lump in the throat. He was only stripped about 5 days after winning it because he didn't fight Glasgow. And he's always had beef with the IBF over that. So I think that he would fight for it, but maybe he'd make an example of the IBF and do a Riddick Bowe and throw it in the trash. Maybe he'd do that. In terms of, that's pretty much most of the news. In terms of fights that have been announced, January is shaping up to be a very, very good month, lads. Touch wood, it stays that way. Kind of bizarre that this happened, but it's a good fight nonetheless. F.A. Ajagba versus Oscar Rivas. Heavyweight, not bridgerweight, heavyweight clash. January 14th. Interesting. Have they just been the bridgerweight? Because it's just not needed. Have they just been the bridgerweight and just it's done now? I hope so. Because that's, judging by this, unless Oscar Rivas is just going to decide, you know what, I could probably fight F.A. Ajagba. And I could probably fight, even if I lose, I'd fight Alan Babbage the next day and still beat him. Maybe that's the way he's looking at it. I don't know. So that's pretty much most of the news now. Obviously, we still aren't 100% sure about what the situation is with Adam Smith on Sky. Just quick there on screen. I was listening to Joe Stunner's video on this, and I'm not going to spoil what he said. I'd encourage you to go over to Joe Stunner's channel. I'll probably pin it in the comment section, the link to his video. I'd encourage you to go over and watch it. He's heard some things that have happened. Now, again, he's saying it in the video. It's not smoking gun. He's not turning around and saying this is definitely what's happening. It's not in relation to the gambling, what we've heard. It's other things, more corporate. But I thought that was very interesting, and because I tell you what, I've heard something similar. Now, this was going back in January when I was over in the UK, actually, at the Joyce Hammer fight. And I heard something similar, but not quite the same as what he said. That there was a few issues with Sky, Adam Smith, and not necessarily Sky, but Adam Smith had a bit of a different direction for what way he wanted to take the boxing, if that makes sense. So I wonder, is it a case of Adam Smith is maybe, not happy in the company at the end of the day? Maybe he feels he has a different vision than what's happening. I don't know. I did find it, I found it strange when Adam Smith went on to the darts, because he never really covered the darts, and he's actually not a bad commentator at darts, truth be told. But he's given up on he's not given up, but he's not commentating on the darts either, which I found strange. And if you've never heard Adam Smith on darts, he's actually not bad. I think he's probably better at darts than he is actually commentating on boxing, because with darts, you kind of have to always be on it, because you can't really be telling a story, because they're always scoring, there's always things going on. And he actually is quite good. There's some dark commentators, especially nowadays, who are rubbish. But he's actually quite good. He's actually quite good at it. I'll give him that. So go over to Joe Stunner, have a watch of his video. Very interesting, very interesting. I have heard something similar, but not quite what he was saying in it. Not quite what he was saying in it. Go over there and have a look. So I think I'll leave it with that now, people. I hope you enjoyed the video. Midweek report finally coming back to Wednesdays. I have a preview for Fury Chisora that's going to go live tomorrow. Well, live. It's going to be uploaded in the morning. It's an hour long. I was so... Like, to preview it was just so hard because I just couldn't get up for it. I needed some help. So I got some help in to help me. And we'll watch that tomorrow. So you'll enjoy it. It's an hour, but it was a good hour. We had a good chat. So I'll leave it with that. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Peace.